Hello and welcome back to another episode of Notion Bonsai. And in this video today, we're going to be repotting a great big Oriental Hornbeam. So this is the tree that we're going to be working on in this video today. This is a great big Oriental Hornbeam. Attila got this like 4 years ago now?
Almost 4 years.
Okay.
It'll be now 4 years.
And I have to say, like, oh my God, there's so much character to this tree. And what fascinates me most about this particular tree is it's mostly natural. Like, this was just collected from the wild.
I think it's coming from Croatia.
Croatia, okay. Right out of the ground. This is all natural. You can see the age. You've just done one style into this in the last 3 years?
3 times, nothing major.
And this is like a clump. If you look at the base of this tree, it's a clump of many trees fused together. And although it's kind of chaotic, I love it. I love how it works as an overall composition, especially from that front angle. You can see the triangular shape. Sort of like has an overall cohesion, even though the entire thing is in chaos. There's so many sort of so-called flaws with this tree. But I think with this particular one, due to the age of it and the character and the species, it would be an absolute tragedy to want to even separate this. And now before we begin, the tools that we'll be using during this repot today are a chopstick, a root hook, a saw, some safety glasses, some bonsai tweezers, root pruning shears, root cutters, wire cutters, and some gin pliers. And as always, if you're just getting started in bonsai, by no means do you absolutely have to have all of these specialized tools. You can get by with a cheap pair of garden scissors or some secateurs, whatever you have at your disposal to get a particular job done. However, whatever tools that you are using, you just want to make sure that they're clean and sharp. Clean so we don't introduce any bacterial or fungal infections to our trees, and sharp because in bonsai, a sharp pair of scissors will give you a much cleaner cut. And in horticulture, clean cuts heal so much faster and more efficiently than a blunt cut that was squashed by a dull blade. If you are working on more expensive trees, I would highly recommend getting the specialized tools just to do some cuts a little bit easier. When dealing with a tree this large, there is a couple different methods that you can use to get it out of the pot. We're going to hoist this tree out of this pot with a strap and hopefully lift it and suspend it in the air. That way we can work on the roots a lot easier without actually risking damaging any of these branches on the top, because if we were to lay this on the side and on the back, there's a chance that you could hit it, knock something off, break something, and with a tree this old, you really don't want to risk any damage to the top part. So whenever you're attaching a hoist to a tree, you want to sort of think and imagine where the center of gravity is in the tree, and for us, we think it's around here. You also want to pick a spot in which it's really secure, so we're going around the main trunk here and tying it off there. So Attila here is just double knotting it, that way it's not going to come out. You don't want this to slip and fall, because that again could damage the rest of this tree. And now before we lift this up, we're going to do a test while it's in the pot. That way, if it sways or the center of gravity is off and the tree tips, we can come back, correct it, because if we do that while it's out of the pot, that just makes things a lot more complicated. Okay, so this is test 1 of hoisting the tree. Ready? Yeah, okay, so it's staying pretty centered. If this was here, yeah, this is definitely going to work. We just need something now to attach this hook to. Maybe here, or
even if you
wrap it around this pole.
Yeah, and I have a nail.
Okay. That's definitely not going to come out. Now this tree is like super secure. So we've got a tray down here at the bottom, and that's going to catch all of the soil as we rake the tree up here. So the first thing we got to do is get this tree out of this pot. So how are you thinking of doing this? Just give it a whack.
Just give it a whack.
Oh my goodness. That came out really easily, and it's meshed. The entire root ball of this tree is nice and meshed, and it's nice and loose too, because Attila's got it in this nice light mix of compost and perlite. As we work on this, we're working very gently, because when we're doing this, we want to preserve as much of the roots of this as we possibly can, and then later, as we come in, we can decide to pick and choose which ones we want to keep. It's just falling apart here, which is really good to see. I love like a nice dry, loose soil. And when repotting, it's really helpful to let the soil dry out a little bit. That way, whenever you're working with it, it's not wet and mushy and clumpy. It's a little bit easier to work with. We can really just take our time with this. That's just gonna fall off, look at that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh my God.
I want to reveal on the bottom a bit more as well, if it's possible.
I mean, there's absolutely no problem with this soil. It's nice and aerated, which is what roots love. So is the root base going to be here in the pot?
We will be revealing the whole top, so if it's...
Because it might need...
If we can put it down in here, that would be nice.
Yeah, look at that. Oh my... Yeah, there's like a lot more trunk under here than we thought. The soil was up to here, we've worked it down to here, and this is exposing even more of this beautiful trunk, and all this also has got that nice craggly bark edge to it, which is really nice to see. When working on the roots, it's important to keep a spray bottle of water nearby. That way you can moisten the roots and keep them hydrated as you work, because essentially if any of these roots, these delicate, nice, fine feeder roots, if they dry out, them roots are essentially dead. And if you got all of this exposed and all the feeder roots dry out, there's a good chance you could actually kill your tree. So we don't want that to happen. Get that rock out?
Yeah, if you can, I'll just hold up the tree for you then.
There's a lot of little rocks to get out first, and we'll get our way in there. We've both just noticed this huge rock that's growing inside the hornbeam, right in the middle of all the roots. Now, if you wanted, you could keep this and make somewhat of a feature out of it. But for us, it's growing at the back of the planting. We're also thinking like this rock is taking up space and real estate that could much better go to nice fine feeder roots. So we're going to attempt to get rid of it.
I'll try to be gentle, but in the same time, you know, put a bit force.
That is a really tough stone.
Okay.
Okay. Nice, it's breaking apart in there. Oh, look at that. This little whack. What was it you used there?
It's a bigger screw.
Yeah, just a screw.
That's really it. And if you have a chisel, that will work as well. But as you just said, this can occupy a lot
that's so much space for feeder roots in there. Nice. How do you feel about it?
Better.
Rock there. So now we're going to wash the roots. We're basically just taking a hose, spraying them down, washing as much of the old soil as we can. We could, if we wanted to, come in and use a pressure washer. I see they do that in Japan with some of their trees, but here it's really not needed. The soil is so loose, it's just going to fall away. So if we can take the gentler option.
It's hard, like the pot, it's big enough for it. I think we need to take it off and properly fit it in. So,
okay. You know, we actually don't need to remove much. I'm actually surprised. I thought we would have had to remove a lot of them thicker ones. I think that's going to sit really nice in there. So this is the pot that we're going to be putting the tree into. This is 46.5 centimeters in diameter. As you can see, look at this huge pot. So to prepare the pot, we're first going to start by wiring. And this particular pot has these lovely wire holes along the edges here. If your pot doesn't have this, of course, you feel free to put the wire up through the drainage holes. No problem with that at all. Just whatever works for you. This is 2mm aluminium bonsai wire. And taking this, I'm going to measure as if this wire has been through the bottom of the pot, and then give myself enough wire so that if it comes over the tree that's going to be here in the future, there's enough here. So like this much. And flipping the pot over, I'm going to feed the wire through the drainage holes and pull it up through this side. And then just to keep this wire in place for now, I'm going to push it to the edges like this. I'm going to do the same thing to these other holes. And even if you wanted to get further anchoring, you could even go from this hole to this hole instead of the two that's closest to each other, just depending on what you need and what works for you. But just for now, we're going to do these ones. Next, so that the soil doesn't fall out of these drainage holes, I'm going to take some of this mesh tape. Ideally, we would use the much harder mesh and put it over these holes. It tends to be a little bit more secure. Just put a little bit of mesh tape over these holes, stick it down, and because this is a tape, it actually sticks to the pot, which is really nice. I've got some pre-cut over here. Whatever you have at your disposal to get this job done. Some people use some like cheesecloth. I prefer the mesh tape because the holes are a little bit bigger. So Attila here now is just swiveling the pot because this is going to be the front of the tree, and you want to choose the best front of the pot. So the pot also has a front, and the front of a pot is essentially the side in which you think personally looks the best. So what are you thinking, Attila?
This pot looks really nice from every angle and every side. So in this case, personal taste, I like the imperfection with these pots.
Which is like this little lumpy part here.
That open in here, and then obviously you want the legs to be on the sides. So
happy enough with this?
yeah, it's nice.
So before we put the tree into here, we're going to mound up some of our bonsai soil in the middle of the pot here. And this is simply a mix of pumice, akadama, and lava rock. And whenever you're putting a tree into a pot, you want to make a little mountain in the middle like this. That way, whenever the tree sits down onto it, it fills in all the spaces on the underside of the root ball, because usually there's air gaps there. And if you don't mound it like this, anywhere there's air gaps in the pot is essentially areas in which water cannot reach. It's really important that you make this little mountain. Give it a little twist. This just helps work the soil under the root ball. I feel like it's a little too much to this side.
More to mine, yeah.
Yeah.
I can do a tiny bit at the back, but we have a romantic feeder roots.
Okay.
Would you mind holding there?
Does it need to tilt more forward?
Yes.
Like that?
Yeah.
It feels like it needs to go that way.
Somewhere there, yeah. Yeah, you just get it right.
Get soil in there.
Okay.
We could bring it, right, it looks very forward in the pot. So what if we shifted it more?
Tiny bit to the back.
Yeah, but keep the angle.
Yeah.
Like that. How does that look from the front? Does it look like there's more space to breathe?
Better.
So now we're going to do some root work, and already I can see this root up here is way too high because the soil level is nowhere near going to be where it is down here in the pot. So this we can decide to remove, just taking the root cutters, just cut that off. Removing this root here, this is also way too high. Just cutting that off. So essentially what we're doing is removing any roots that's way too high in the pot that won't make it into the soil anyway. So if we didn't cut them off, they'd simply dry out in the sun and die anyways. So by doing it this way, the tree's not going to try and put energy into something that's going to die. And all the good energy is going to go all into the roots that will survive.
It's tiny bit more lower, so I want to cover these ones.
You really want them coming out under here. Yep. So these eventually will go.
I just want to see what we have in here.
So after removing some of the little problem roots that we didn't think quite worked here, now what we're going to do is just fill in more soil around the top here and work it in with a chopstick. And all we're doing by working it in with the chopstick is, again, just like how we made the mountain on the bottom, we're making sure there's no air gaps in the soil. That way when it's watered, the water can reach all of these roots. Now we're going to wire the tree in. All the soil has been nice and compactified in the pot. We're going to just take the wire up over the tree. We're going to tie them together. So we're taking the two wires that was on this side and the two at the opposite side, and we're just intertwining them together. And then for this next part, we're going to take these two wires and tie these off to the wires over here.
Dead.
And that was just a quick video on repotting this Oriental Hornbeam. All that's left to do now is give this tree a water. And on that, I'm gonna end off this video right here. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like on this video. It really helps out the channel a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And let Attila and I know down in the comments what you thought of this video. Perhaps there's something you would have done differently with repotting a tree this large. We're always open to new and different ideas in bonsai. Massive thank you to Attila again for having me here in his garden. It's always great fun to work on trees. And remember, check out Attila's channel over at Fangorn Bonsai, and I'll leave a link in the description. If you would like to support me and the things that I do on this channel, hit the thanks button down below. Or if you'd like to become a channel member, hit the join button. That way you'll get early access to new videos before they go out to everyone else, and you will get access to membership posts. But on that, thank you so very much for watching.